We've gone from the nasal cavity to the pharynx to the larynx. It's time to move on to the trachea. Now the trachea, you might have heard of it as your windpipe. Well, we need to stick to the anatomical term, so we'll stick with trachea. Basically, the trachea is what starts just at the larynx up top and runs down until you start branching at your lungs. So you have three main layers of the trachea. The most internal layer is known as the mucosa. The mucosa is ciliated pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Now, they do have goblet cells because the goblet cells produce mucus. That mucus is going to go into the trachea and be propelled upwards towards your throat, helping to trap debris and particles, basically keep the lungs as clean as possible. But now around the mucosa is the submucosa. Submucosa is going to have these seromucous glands, more mucus. Then below that, or say around that, is going to be the adventitia. And you're thinking, well, hold on, why not serosa? We talked about that with digestion. Remember, adventitia is what's found superiorly to the diaphragm. We're above the diaphragm, so it's all adventitia. Now in this case, this adventitia also has cartilage. It's going to have those C-shaped rings of hyaline cartilage. Those are those tracheal cartilage rings that go all the way down. So it's really meant to help provide the structure of the trachea. So mucosa, submucosa, and adventitia. So here's a view. This is a cross-sectional view. So imagine cross-section through, looking down. You can see the mucosa is just on the inside edge. Then you have that submucosa is all this section. And then you have the adventitia, which is where you have the hyaline cartilage. But notice again, the hyaline cartilage is a C shape. It doesn't go all the way around. It is a C shape. So that is actually helping to create the actual structure to keep the actual trachea opened. So a different view, this is the histological view. You'll notice here, this is going to be your pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Then this area right here, that's your submucosa. You can see the cartilage right there. That means this is the adventitia. So three different layers as you work your way through. The idea is to help protect and then to give structure. So all these have their own individual purposes. And the very posterior side is that trachealis muscle. Now the trachealis muscle connects the posterior aspects of those C rings, those cartilage rings. This purpose here is to contract during coughing. Well, why would you want to contract during coughing? Yeah, sure, you're trying to expel mucus, but why contract a muscle? Think about it this way. If you have this shape here, and now you contract the muscle, the opening became smaller. By contracting the trachealis muscle, you make the lumen, the space inside your trachea, smaller. Less space with the same airflow means more force. So therefore, you've increased the force of that cough to help expel the mucus by creating more force. So you have the actual trachea here with that trachealis muscle contracting upon coughing to make it smaller to increase the force of the cough. Then you have the carina. The carina is the most inferior of the trachea. It's right when the trachea comes down and splits into two. That's the carina. Now it's the last part of cartilage just as it splits. Because once it splits, now it's going to be the bronchi. So the very, very last piece is the carina. So if you're seeing it here, you can see all the tracheal rings coming down. But then right here, that's the carina. That's right where it splits and goes out. So you'll notice that right at that point, that's the carina, and you see the cartilage above it is actually wedged into two. From there, you now then go into all these branches heading into your lungs. From the primary or main bronchus is the first branching, to the second one, which is your lobar or your secondary bronchus, down to the next branching, which is the segmental or tertiary branching. Each time it branches, the name changes. So if you notice, this up top, that's the main or primary. The minute it branches, now it's secondary, or known as lobar. And once that branches again, the branching changes to tertiary, or known as segmental. So it branches and branches and branches. In total, there's 23 different branching. We're not going through all 23. Primary, secondary, tertiary. Main, lobar, segmental. Whichever way you want to do it. The first 3 branches we have to name. And then we'll name the very end. But for now, the first 3. The entire branching pattern is your bronchial tree, or known as the respiratory tree, because the tubes get smaller and smaller, helping to distribute the air throughout the entire lung. So that's how we get the air kind of down that way, down to the trachea and heading into the bronchi, which we need to discuss more about later. But moving that air all the way down.